So our first speaker tonight is going to be Cyril. He's an ultra endurance and adventure seeking waterman. Cyril is originally from France. In 2002, he traveled around the world for a mere $7,000. Having lived in England, Spain, Italy, Argentina, and Brazil, Cyril speaks 5 languages fluently. He has lived in California for the past 10 years, and his full-time job is in the wine business. Outrigger paddler at heart from 2010 to 2015, Cyril competed 4 times in the Molokai-Hoe, a 43-mile outrigger canoe race in Hawaii. In 2012, Cyril raced the 440-mile Yukon River Quest in Canada in a time of 45 hours. In 2016, Cyril rode the Mid-Pacific which means he rode across the whole entire ocean from Monterey to Hawaii in a record time of 39 days in a 4-man rowing crew. And you know, he achieved a Guinness World Book record. No big deal really, but yeah, Guinness World Book Record. Oh, he has the book here too, the book's here. Cyril lives in Larkspur, where he shares a home with his girlfriend Ashley. He is a father of 2 beautiful boys, 12 and 9, Oliver and Simon. So please welcome Cyril.
Okay. Hi guys. How's everybody? I tried to fire that up. You did good. Okay, first of all, I want to thank you all to come. I feel like a politician right here.
Be a better president.
The first few slides are about the presentation and why I wanted to create these tales of adventure. The first thing is, where do we get our inspiration and feeling that we can do it, like this little tiger here. If you look at it, it's how do you get your inspirations, right? Do you look at the people on TV? Do you look at, you read books? But I think those people, next slide, are like bald eagles. They're like your kids that are kind of looking TV, they want to be Steve Curry. But the problem, no, back. Back. Yeah. The problem with those is they're unreachable. We're trying to be that, but we can't really see them. We see them on TV, but how do you really get to be that? So I was thinking that for Tales of Adventure, how about we put in front of you 4 adventures that are a bit more reachable. And so the logo would be probably something a bit different, more of a cow. But because we're all cow, we see cows everywhere, but this is a flying cow. So you could be a flying cow as well. And the whole thing is how could you make that? Believe in yourself to, what?
It's my spirit animal.
It's your spirit animal. Yeah. So, next one. Yeah, here you go. This is the Tales of Adventure, where we're going to present to you 4 amazing, 3 amazing people that have done, just passed their own limits, and how you can yourself, in your own life, do the same. So, next one. Before I start the next one, no, don't play right away. So I want to present you how I rode across the Pacific. But before I play this first video that I'm going to tell you a lot already, I want you to picture yourself in a van. Okay, you buy a van, and you put 4 people in it. 4 guys, pretty, alpha males, like pretty strong, like kind of crazy. And you ask them to drive for an hour and a half. Like 2 guys will drive, and 2 will rest for an hour and a half. And then you switch. All right, of course, when you switch, you can't go out of the car. You have to switch like crawling on the other, right? And then the other guys are going to drive for an hour and a half. And then you switch. So after 6 hours, you're in LA. And then what do? You turn around, and you do that again. Another 6 hours, switch every hour and a half. And if you have to do the bathroom, well, you get a bucket. You stay in the car. You can't go out of the car. If you have to eat, you eat there. If you have to sleep, you sleep there. And let's make it a bit more fun. How about you just remove the roof? So that when you're outside, it's raining, you're still outside. And you just have to drive an hour and a half all day, all night. Doesn't matter if it's cold outside. Now how about we make it a bit more fun? Somebody's going to move the van, like until you're seasick. How about we make it more fun? We have like buckets of water throwing in yourself. And not only just water, how about we put salt water? So it's like really nice and uncomfortable. Right? And then you just do it for 40 days. And that's more or less what it is about ocean rowing. So go ahead. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that was a teaser. Now I'm going to explain to you how I made it happen. So I was a soccer player all my life. I just started paddling when I moved here in California 10 years ago. And I started right here at the Fort Baker, the outrigger canoe club. And that's me in the front because I'm not very strong, so they put me in the front because I can keep the same same pace. And I started with races at 8 to 12 miles, so it's 45 to an hour and a half race. And what's funny is that the first race, it was 8 miles, it was like 45 minutes. And I remember I was so stressed. And I woke up in the morning, I had some pasta to make sure I had energy. And just for 45 minutes, like so funny now. So then after I did my next challenge was participate in the Molokai-Hoe, which is a race from Molokai to Oahu. And that's 43 miles on the, so right here we look at this volcano, it's going to be important after. But and then it's 5 to 6 hours of paddling. And that was another challenge. I never thought I could do 6 hours. How do I train for this? You know, so I was also very stressed. I was training like crazy, maybe even more, maybe poorly training. But that was the next goal. And I said, okay, well, I've done that. I've done it 4 times. And I said, well, what can I do next? And I bumped into this race. It's called the California 100. It's 100 miles down the Sacramento River. And we did that in 12 hours, which is, so every time you bring another level, you have to say, what's my nutrition? How do I train? How do I pace myself? All that stuff. So that was fun. It's always paddling, the same thing. But so next I was looking for something else. And then I put a team together of these friends of mine. They were like so much better paddlers than me. Again, they put me in the front because I'm small. And that was 440 miles. It's a Yukon River Quest up in Canada. And yeah, that's 45 hours. So it's another beast because how do you hydrate? How do you, pace yourself and paddle through the night? And actually I did pretty good because again, I'm not very muscular, but I can just keep going. And so soon I kind of started that, I could keep going, and it was very much mental. even though those guys behind me had been paddling for forever, you know, when you do these kind of races, you do have to have the mental. So, and the next one, I stumbled upon a website that says you don't need to be a rower to row across the ocean. I said, oh, that's interesting. So I looked into it, and they say, yeah, it's a mental strength. You have to just keep going and you know, be okay, being uncomfortable. So that was the Guinness record was 43 days, and it's Chris Martin who's going to come. He organizes this race in Monterey, and I said, all right, that's interesting. So how about I do that? So here's about the race. We start from Monterey, but there's currents pushing you in the south. So even though you go west, you kind of drift south, and then finally you get to Hawaii. And this is the same volcano, so it has a big emotional attachment for me, because my first Molokai, I remember feeling like an amazing feeling of accomplishment and pushing yourself, pushing your limits. So having the finish line at the same place in Waikiki was just amazing. For the expedition, we had Michel. He's a Frenchman who's specialist in climate and routing. So he was giving us information. He was giving us waypoints, because from the beginning I wanted to, well, if I was going to do it once in my life, I wanted to compete and have a really great crew. It's really strong. So I put a crew around me of people who could help me break the Guinness record, and this was mandatory for us to have it. But I was not a rower, I was a paddler. So paddler, you go forward, and this, you have to use your legs, you have to go backward. So first I went on the Petaluma River and I signed up for this rowing club, and I learned sculling. But the sculling shells are so light. Well, after 2 months I had learned how to scull, more or less, but I said, oh, this is not going to work. I need to find a piece of equipment that is more, like, closer to what my real vessel is going to be. And the vessel is going to be like 2,000 pounds, it's fully loaded. So I need to find, so I bought this little fishing vessel, next one, and I built this little rowing shell, because it's really hard to find a heavy rowing shell. I guess nobody wants to do it, but what I would do is I added a rope, and I put some PFDs in the back, so it would add more drag. And if you go next one, there's another video where it's the first time I take it out of the bay. Yeah, so it's our beautiful bay. If you guys, probably go out already, and then have no technique at all. It's like when I look at this, it's a disaster. But I guess you just have to do it, and then to be able to train more, I moved in my friend's house, who had a floating house here in Sausalito, and I would try to train at any hours of night, a day, or whatever. It was raining like this, perfect weather. It's cold, perfect weather. And the whole idea of training was actually to put yourself in conditions where you would be comfortable being uncomfortable. So I just put this video very long because you have to see that it's really boring. And if you do that for 40 days, this is ridiculous. So, but it was beautiful. Actually, the training was probably a super part of the journey. It was like much more fun than the actual race. So, okay, so when you start training, I mean, there's some athletes over here that know this, but I had to learn about how do you push yourself. I mean, so this is a particular training I pulled out. You put your heart monitor, and then you kind of look. This was like a boot camp kind of thing. So you run bleaches, and then you see how your heart responds, and then the idea is to push yourself so that you have the cardio, you have the strength. So yeah, next one. But this is how my training was looking like, and so this is for like a month's time, like 25 hours of rowing, and then all the different things. But every day I was doing something different. My idea of training was to get just a really efficient machine that I could do any kind of sport and I would not feel sore at all. So I was doing yoga, I was swimming, I was doing running and whatever. But I had to consistently do like 2 hours a day. So this is the erg. If you guys have been on the rowing machine, it's like a torture. It's awful. But the idea is to reach a certain pace to see that you have your cardio. So this was rowing for like an hour, and the pace is, the medium pace is 2 minutes for 500 miles, and our target was to reach for 2 hours straight, 2 minutes for 500 miles. So if you go on erg, you'll see. But this is 500 meters. Yeah. Yeah. So of course you have to train. There's so many things that we had to learn. First aid and CPR. This is a navigation course, because you have to know how to put yourself on a map and where you're going. And there was a VHF where we had to learn how to call a container ship that was coming our way. We had a class, next one, that is survival at sea. So this is kind of funny because you do it in a pool, but once you're in the middle of the ocean, you better know how to do it if you have to do it. So this is the whole cruise. There were 9 different crews that started in Monterey. We were there for 2 weeks, and one of the things we had to do was to be able to put a survival suit in less than a minute. So there was like the group picture. Next one. This is the food I had to eat just before we left, because I had to gain 20 pounds. Usually when you do this kind of race, you lose about 20 pounds. I lost 15. But this looks like pretty fun, but it's eating so much, and Austin, who's here, big athletes, it's actually not that fun to eat that much. And so I kind of look at it as a sacrifice. I lost it all, and I knew I was going to lose it, but there's a few, before you reach a goal like this, there's some sacrifices that people don't see. For example, I stopped drinking alcohol for 2 years, so I would train as best as I could. I didn't take any vacation for 2 years, so I could take a month and a half in a row. All right, so this is the kind of things that I have to do. So this is a slide. I was living in Santa Rosa at the time, and just like I organized this evening tonight, I wanted to share the experience. So these are the principals of different schools. And the French-American school, and I spoke to 380 kids. Over there, 280 and 440, and from 7 to 12 years old. And the story is that you never know who you're going to inspire. And those kids, they're looking for those flying cows that are touchable. I met this guy who did this. And the story is, quickly, I know I'm running out of time already, but when I did the trip around the world when I was 25, I went to my little village. There was 5,000 people in the village. I went to the local school. There were 40 kids. I went to local college and high school, and I spoke. And I was just like, okay, here's my backpack. Here's the map. I'm going to do 20 countries, and this is what I'm going to do. And 5 years down the road, I was living in Santa Rosa. There's a guy who knocked on my door with his 2 buddies and bikes. And they said, we're doing a trip around the world on a bicycle, and you actually gave me the spark 4 years ago. I was like, oh my God. So I really like to do this because you never know who you're going to inspire, right? Maybe you guys are coming back in 5 years and I did this, and So here's a crew. Thiago over there on the right is my buddy from Brazil. We were actually Team Uniting Nations, so I was a Frenchman. On the left is Carlo, who's from San Jose, is the American of the crew, and then Fian from Iceland. And so when I put together the crew, I tried to have some, to find the right people, which is really hard. I mean, you have to have the technique of rowing, you have to be the spirit of adventure, and you have to be like a team member, etc. But these guys were the best. And also the idea of beating the Guinness record. So for those geeks out there, it's a numbers game. When you're talking about 40 days, let's say you do an average of 50 miles per day, right? So 50 miles per day, you get to Hawaii in 40 days. Now if you do 51 miles on average per day, that's only 1 mile per day. But for 1 mile times 40 days, that's 40 miles. If you do an average of 50 miles a day, then you're shaving a day off at the end. So that means this 1 mile that you have to add to every day. If you do, our pace was you row an hour and a half, you stop an hour and a half. You row an hour. So that means you do 8 shifts during the day and 8 shifts during the night, right? So that's 16 shifts. If you have to put this 1 mile into 16 shifts, I mean basically you have to do 100 yards more at every shift, right? To have that one extra. And when you're tired, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, it's pouring rain, it's dark, you don't see anything, you still have to do that 100 more yards. And these guys were really pushing, and that's what put us together, is to have like the idea of the Guinness record. Now the food, this is one person food. We had 40 days, 8,000 calories, and if you see, we put the numbers together. And the idea is you put number 1 at the bottom of the boat, and then number 2, number 3, number 4, and then you take, actually you put the opposite, sorry. No, actually it's like that. And then you take day 40, and then as you go, you know how many portions you have left. Right? If you're taking 15, you have 15. So all right, there's 10 days left. I'm fine. I can eat more. Yeah, but 6,000 calories. It's a lot. We're trying to get some energies with like Viga. It's an alternative way of getting calories inside. You just put a liquid. It's easier. So here's our boat. Her name is Danielle, and it's not very big. I'll show you on the next. There's a little video where I get my first introduction with Danielle. Okay guys, I'm gonna take you in the cabin. Oh my goodness, it's pretty small. So here I'm touching with my head. And my elbows are touching too. Here it is outside. Let's see, I'm gonna show you. So this is how I am. My feet are actually going. You can't be claustrophobic. Under the deck. This is the rowing deck. Well, this is pretty small. Oh yeah. I knew it was small, but this is really small. Yeah, okay, thanks. All right, so here's I'm going to show you a few pictures of the boat. So you see the seats. One of the crucial things in that expedition is whatever touches whatever you touch. So it's going to be the feet, the butt, and the hands. Right, so you see the cushions are really meant for ocean rowing. So this is a picture of my 2 boys with Ashley, and on the way on the dock, getting ready to go. You see the solar panels that are charging the batteries, and then we get all our power from that. Now this is a picture from up, and we were on a training run in Monterey. We had to do 40 hours before we could go, and the technique is crucial, because if you do hundreds of thousands of the same gesture, you have to have the technique, otherwise you're going to get strained or your joints are going to just explode. So technique was important. I was the less of the rowers. The other guys had been rowing forever, and it was actually to my detriment, but I had to make it happen, yeah. So all the way, push. And these are the oars. The oars you see, they are tulip shaped. They're not the same for flat water, because you're not rotating the wrist. Otherwise, it's another weak part of the body. Okay, next one. So yeah, there's another picture. And we had the sponsor give us those glasses, so we had to take pictures of them. Yeah, next. Yeah, okay, so that's the day probably prior to the race. There was an albatross right there, beautiful. And we actually saw a part of 40 or 50 dolphins, so that was good luck for us. Yep. And then I had put Layla. So Layla, she was in my car for 2 years when I was training, and I promised her to take her to Hawaii. But also you see in the blurred, I also had put pictures of friends of mine who had passed away, and they were my good luck and good spirit to help me in tough times. Yeah. So here we are, that's our cabin, full of food. We had to sleep on the food. And we couldn't even turn around, so it actually is pretty funny there, but it's not funny when it's 2 o'clock in the morning, because when you shift, here's what happened. So let's say, you always get a wave that comes aboard and you're wet, right? So before you go in, you try not to bring too much water, so you get undressed and you keep the clothes like right here at your feet. And then after, the first thing you do, you get naked, you put some baby wipes to make sure you get the salt out. Second thing is eating right away. You have to eat right away, so when you sleep, then you get your nutrition at that time. And then after you try to sleep, no more than 45 minutes at a time. And then after it's time to get ready again, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, you put your wet clothes on, and out. The guy wants to come in, so you gotta get out. Yeah, next one. So it is, I'll show you this picture just to see the safety. So this one is EPIRB that you can, in case of emergency. You're in the middle of the ocean, there's really not much you can do. You have to make sure you're attached at all times. So before you get out of the cabin, you have your harness and then you lock yourself in. Because the one thing you could do is like in the van. If you get out of the van, you're out. It's like lava. I mean, if you fall, even if the guys see you fall in the water and you're not attached, the boat is so heavy, that you can't turn around and the guy's gone. So that was one of the things you have to be careful. Here's the inside of the cabin. You can see here is all the electricity when you turn on and off. The water maker, because all the water we got was from the ocean. We removed the salt. You have the VHF over there, the GPS, where you put the waypoint and your destination. It's very simple, but you still have to learn about some electrics a little bit. So here you are, and Fian over there is like such a strong guy. He already had the Guinness World Record for the fastest crossing of the Atlantic and the Indian Ocean. So he had so much knowledge to give us. And the next slide, we'll see what it means a little bit to pull a 2,000-pound boat. And it's moving. I mean, it's moving. So it's really different than flat water. You have to go like this, like up and down, huh? Yeah. So here's Thiago, he's a triathlete champion, everything. I mean, those guys were really rocking. So here we go. We start the race, and there was this little app that you could follow. That was really cool. So we're in the front. We started pretty strong. We did the 1-hour shift at the beginning. So we never slept more than 20 minutes, but we really went on takeoff really strong. So the first week, that was our pace. I was seasick for the first 3 days, so I just had to power through that. But there's a question of pride also. There's no way that I would let my shift go. So now this is Thiago, a few days in. You can see the mess in the cabin. You're so tired, you don't see anything. I mean, you kind of lose your mind a little bit, so it just gets a mess. What do you do when you're downtime? I love listening to music. What's funny is that I actually love romantic music. I needed to be like a nest. When I trained, I was like Rocky and all that kind of stuff. Eye on the Tiger. But this, I had to listen to Celine Dion. I had those French music that are so romantic and so cheesy, and I was like in my little cocoon. I was like, oh, it's so good. Oh my God. So here's a picture we took of the crew. That was so cool. Next. Good guys. Oh yeah, that's the bathroom. Sorry, there's no kids, so that's good. But yeah, that's a Home Depot bucket. And what was funny is that actually you could see there the only way to put it on the boat is to put it in the front, so that the rowers would actually they would touch my knee when they would keep running. Yeah? So I mean, you get over it. They also have to do it maybe half a day later. So yeah, next. Okay, but the beautiful thing is probably the sunrises and sunsets. So I'm going to show you a few pictures. I mean, you can't just explain it because you're suffering so much, but at the same time, it's just so relaxed. There's moments where the sea is really unforgiving, and the whole night you're going to suffer for 12 hours because you don't know where to go, and the next morning is going to be like a really beautiful day. So I put this picture of Carlo because I think he's just a beautiful man in many, many ways. He was naturally the leader of the crew. He was very calm, he has the natural authority, and he was, I don't know, my words lose my words. That was a beautiful guy. Yeah, so, yeah. I mean, it's very long, 40 days is crazy. We reached the mid of the Pacific, and it was 3 weeks, it's for 21 days. And we're like, what? There's another 21 days. 3 weeks is a lot of time. So yeah, you can go ahead, and there's a few pictures. There's moments where of course we fight because we're tired, and we always think somebody else is doing not the right thing, but Like for example with Thiago, it was always like a brotherhood. It was in the end we would like cuss each other, and in the end was like, yeah, my brother, come on, let's do this, you know, let's keep going. But this, yeah, you can't really explain those. I guess you just have to do it. So most of the time, either you'd stay in your cabin, but you can see there's not much room, so you can't even go out. For 40 days, we didn't walk much. The first 2 weeks was so cold. You get wet, even though it's not cold outside. You're wet and there's a bit of wind and you're cold. And the last 2 weeks towards Hawaii is the opposite. It was so hot. And Thiago, that's what he said in the video. He was so happy when it was like so hot, cooking, because he's from Brazil. But he lost his mind when it was cold. It was like he couldn't do anything. And in fact, he was probably the guy who had the worst trouble in terms of physical, because he lost so much weight. He lost 25 pounds, and he didn't really manage his intake, his nutrition and food properly. And he started pretty lean already, because he was a triathlete. He did a bunch of Ironmans. And he was like speaking to a 9-year-old. We had to tell him everything. Come on, Thiago, eat this. Yeah, I don't feel like it. You gotta eat. And you have to force yourself to eat and drink. And that was part of the race. So yeah, there's days that are just awful. You're just wet all the time. Imagine when you go to the beach and then you come back at the end of the day and you feel salty. Imagine you have to go to bed like this. Well, we have to do this for 40 days. Our sleeping bag was wet pretty fast. So after a week, you sleep in a wet sleeping bag and you just go through it. Yep. Next one. Yeah, I put a few more pictures. You can go faster there. That's when we started to get to Hawaii. You can see our clothes are changing, and then you see nice weather. I love the birds. For me, it's you're in the middle of the ocean, and you see after 3 weeks there's no land, and you see a bird flying here. What the heck? Where are you coming from? And this was like maybe a week before we got there. There's a chase boat that came to see us, and we were far in front of the rest of the crew, so we were doing good. You can go, those are nice pictures. There's not too many pictures from outside, so that's why I put those. This was at the sunset. Yeah, very nice. And we were already smelling the barn, so we're starting to go a little bit faster, and we were good times to beat the record, so we were pushing and pushing. Next. Yeah, these are a few pictures I took the day before we got there. It was so beautiful. Get to Hawaii, you see the flying fish, and then yeah, we're almost there. And we actually arrived at 2 o'clock in the morning. We had chosen number 40 because our target was to get under 40 days, and we actually did 39 days, 9 hours and 56 minutes. So it was a good stuff. And we arrived at 2 o'clock in the morning. We had our loved ones who came to see us over there at sea. And we were cranking. I was like the finish line, like wow, and then we were going like 4 miles an hour, like super cool. But normally our speed is like 2.5, 3 miles an hour. And I remember actually saying, "What? We were going like as hard as we could," and just like, "Come on, guys, let's go back." But yeah, we're happy to get there, of course. And when you lack everything for 40 days, then anything is fine. We didn't have anything cold, so cold beer, cold ice cream, or anything hot. So a pizza would sound great. We didn't have a pillow, we didn't have a shower. So we didn't have anything. Not even a hug, not even a hello from anybody else. Those guys. Yeah. So I actually like this picture because I'm completely lost. I'm like, I don't even know what's happening, I lost balance for a week. I couldn't walk straight. And go ahead. Next one. There we go. So that's Team United Nations. Of course, we were happy to get there. And there's so many stories we can't say, but yeah, everybody lost weight. Go ahead. And champagne. I had to open the bottle of champagne. As a Frenchman. There you go. I'm very happy to see a loved one, of course. Yeah, it's fun to let your beard grow once in your lifetime. So we lost a lot of weight. Very happy. Your hands, yeah. So actually, the butt was really probably the worst because I mean, you're sitting on your butt and then you're actually putting pressure, so you're shafting, but the hands suffered quite a bit. Okay, so this slide we can pause a little bit. Those are my parents. And I just want to say that they were amazing. They let us from the very beginning. We are 3 brothers and 1 sister. They let us follow our dreams and push us in our own individual personalities to follow our dreams. And they're always here, 45 years married and always here to support us. So my parents, yeah. Next, yeah. So what's next? Yeah. So any plans? Yeah. So this year I'm going to do the Yukon River Quest, which is the race of 440 miles. And I actually like the positioning of saying, well, I actually never rode in my life, but I did the ocean. So my next year will be the Trans-America Raceback that Clay is going to present to you after, which is Trans-America, about 30 days cycling unsupported. 2020, I'd love to do the Mississippi from source to sea. There's the next one, and Race to Alaska. That's a different vessel. It's it could be with sail, but it's also rowing. So that's that, and then who knows? Maybe the English Channel. Why not? I don't know how to swim, but maybe this is not going to tell me. First, I have to start from Alcatraz back to home. Yeah. Let's do this. So yeah, there you go. Next slide. It's for you. What's your dream? Did you put it on the second one?
Do you want to have any questions?
Oh yeah. Did you?
Yeah.
Any question? Yeah, we have. Yeah, we have whatever we want. Yeah.
It seems like you get all that moisture in the cabin area. Was there any sort of dehumidifier or anything?
No, nothing. You can't do anything. Yeah, because in fact, one day we were actually so hot that I left a little bit because it depends on the wind. But if the waves are fine, nothing should come in. But there was just one rogue wave that came in, and we had that much water in the whole compartment. Yeah, and nothing you can do. Yeah.
Is there any chance on a voyage like that actually a storm could be such that the boats would actually be?
Yeah. So those boats are meant to be self-righting, and you're attached at the same time. So if the boat flips, then it should return. And the whole thing is about keeping the boat perpendicular to the waves. So we were a pretty strong crew, and we could row all through the storm, so it was fine. But another crew that doesn't have the power, because the wave will put the boat parallel to the wave, and that's when you can flip, right? So in that case, what you do, you put a sea anchor, so it's like a parachute in the water. You have a very long rope, and that makes the boat perpendicular to the wave. And you can't row at that time, you just have to wait. So you lose time, but yeah.
So once when you weren't there, we went out in that boat when it was out here.
Yeah.
The 2 of us, and it was really uncomfortable. Anyway, but so in the book here, it says your name is USA. So did you?
Yeah, because I'm double nationality, and so they put that in America. I don't care. I'm both. Yeah. One more question?
Yes, we,
Yeah. What?
Your slowest day.
Slowest day. So yeah, I mean the thing is we were really crazy about miles. Every day we would record every time. One day you have like 70 miles. That was our longest day. Another day was there's no current, there's no wind, so flat. You do 2 miles an hour and you have to keep cranking. You do 20, 25 miles, but that brings down your average. So you just hope to have better days after. But usually, if you're racing against other crews, you feel like, okay, those other crews also are slowing down, so we should be fine.
Does this boat have a rudder?
They do have a rudder. Yeah.
How are you-
You do it with your foot, and it's actually really hard because at first you're fine, you're fit, but then after you really have to move it with your hand and just keep it with your foot. And the hardest is to push with your foot on the side.
So that's the guy at the back
Yes.
operating there.
Yeah.
And you have a chart plotter in front of him?
No, you don't. We don't have a chart. We use the GPS, and we had a repeater, so we could see the angle we had to follow. You put a waypoint about 100 miles, and that gives you the direction you have to follow. Yeah.
How did the sleeping work? Every 2 hours you slept for 45?
So yeah, you never sleep more than 45 because if you have an hour and a half to stop, you know, you do hygiene, food.
Did you get used to it now? Like,
Oh, you're so exhausted. It was actually funny. It was like, boom. And the hardest was to wake up people. We had to yell like crazy. Yeah, Chago especially. Yeah.
If you were to do it again, would you bring more food?
Well, no, not necessarily more food. Probably different kind of food. We had some issues with the food. Some went bad, but no, not necessarily more, because the more you carry, the more you have to, you know, to row with. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you make the boat, or who made the boat?
Okay, so the boat, first of all, the race I wanted to do in 2014. So I decided in 2012 to do it, and I wanted to finance a boat, so get a big sponsor who would give me the boat is like $80,000. And I couldn't make it happen, and you know, I trained for 2 years for that, and it was like, okay, you know, social media, well, actually, I'm not doing it. You know, we knew you're crazy. So, all right, so I'm not going to give up, and I decided to go with another race, so 2 years later, but in a different configuration. So in that case, this boat is actually, you just pay your seat. So it's $20,000, and each one of the rowers bring $20,000, and somebody rents it for you. And that was cool because I'm tired of asking for sponsors and, you know, begging for money basically. So I said, I'm going to save $1,000 for 24 months. I'm going to have enough money. That's how I financed it. Yeah.
What was your worst, epic worst mental wall and how you climbed over it?
Oh, I don't know. I think I cried every day, so I just listened to Celine Dion. Actually, it's really hard because I'm very emotional, but it's my weakness, but it's also my strength, because that's what is my fuel. But I think it's really rely on your team members. They're there, and you know, you're like tired or you're scared, and they're like, okay, let's do it, you know. And sometimes they're down and you're better, you know. So, but the hardest was really one night. I remember it was so dark, and so when there's cloud, it's raining, you don't see anything. There's no light. And it was like, we're never going to finish this night. It's like hell. It's hell. Ugh. Yeah.
How did you choose the amount of, like the hour and a half on, hour and a half off?
Okay, so it's 4 weeks, 6 weeks is actually so long that you can change. We started at 1 hour in, 1 hour off, and then we switched to 2 hours. And actually that didn't work too well. And we felt like an hour and a half was actually the best, so we switched that. And then after we switched the teams because some were rowing better with the other. So I was with Thiago and the two other ones were together, and we were really more relying on distance or time. So either we'd reach 4 miles or we'd reach 2 hours of rowing, and we'd switch the teams. There's no really rule, but you can't really row hard more than 2 hours.
Right.
Or you're just like, so you gotta rest. Cool. Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.